Hey, so the mood struck me to make a video about the upcoming McGregor and Mayweather fight. Misha, get the fuck out of here. Uh, Mostly because, it's pretty much a once in a lifetime thing. James Toney came over and fought in MMA against Randy Couture, but other than that, nothing like this has ever happened. And it's likely that nothing like it will happen in the future. Unless McGregor wins. I guess if he wins, it's possible he could have some other boxing matches. Fucking Misha. But one thing I wanted to talk about, really, the main thought that keeps going through my head with this, as I watch the highlights of the press conferences and all that stuff, is it seems like Mayweather has never had to deal with someone telling him in a way that he actually has to believe, unless he's just completely ignorant, which, he knows. He has to know in his heart that if it was a real fight, if it was an MMA fight, he wouldn't last 30 seconds. He might take the first leg kick, but the second leg kick would probably put him on his ass, and then, he's never going to get back up. It's just, if Conor wanted to be nice, he would choke him unconscious, and if he didn't want to be nice, he'd punch his face into mush until the referee pulled him off him. So Floyd knows in his mind that Conor really could beat the shit out of him. Like, if he gets too mouthy during this the press conferences, or if shit gets crazy in the ring, Conor will fuck him up. And I think it's the first time that Floyd's ever really had to deal with that. No other boxer could really say that. Floyd is probably the best defensive boxer of all time. And, none of the boxers he's come up against have ever been able to realistically tell him that they were going to beat the shit out of him. And Conor really can do that. And so I think that's one thing that's always probably in the back of Floyd's mind. Now, as far as, what I actually think will happen, I think you'd have to be foolish to say that the odds are that anything will happen other than Mayweather winning, simply because it's only boxing. Now, I do think the first 5 or 6 rounds are going to be super dangerous for Floyd, because if Conor hits him, if Conor squares him up, he's going to hurt him. He's bigger than Floyd. His fist is almost the size of Floyd's head. If he really squares him up, Floyd's going to be in serious trouble. That's the big thing, though, is that professional boxers can't square him up. When was the last time Floyd got really hit hard? It's been a long time. And, so that's the main obstacle, is Conor's going to have to find... Goddamn cats. Conor's going to have to find a way to square him up. But the other thing that nobody ever talks about this, and the other thought that I had, and so I'm going to make a quick segue and I'll make it back to my original point, is you can tell what kind of background the people making comments about the fight, as terms of, celebrities or people, boxers or fighters or commentators, people that, get asked these types of questions. You can tell what kind of background they have by the answer they give. If they're a boxer or associated with boxing, they say, Conor has no chance. Just today I read an article where Mike Tyson said that Conor's going to get killed by Floyd Mayweather in a boxing match. And if they have an MMA background, they're saying, Conor has a chance because, they're throwing punches, and if it was an MMA fight, Conor would kill him. Now, obviously, I agree with the MMA point of view that Conor knows how to punch. Obviously he hasn't been boxing, and boxing, the art of boxing, is a very different thing than the type of boxing that MMA fighters train, because standard boxing wouldn't work in MMA. All that ducking and weaving, all that's going to do is get you kicked in the head, or kneed in the face. Something bad is going to happen with all that bobbing and weaving, because all the other guy has to do is just time it, figure out your pattern, and then he's going to kick you in the head, and you're going to lean right into it. And so they have to, and when you're worried about takedowns as well, if you watch a lot of boxers, they stand almost completely sideways. One foot will be almost completely in front of the other foot, and their hips will be almost turned completely sideways, like Bernard Hopkins. But in MMA, you have to fight way more squared up because of takedowns. And so, if Conor comes in there and is in his karate stance, with his legs spread way apart, with his front hand out, flat, and his, if he comes at him like he's gonna fight anybody else, if he was fighting an MMA fight, if he does the same exact footwork and the same exact timing, the same exact everything, I think that's his best chance to actually hit Floyd, because it's just different. It's so much different than what Floyd is used to. There's in boxing, there's a very traditional style that most people follow, and most of the angles that punches are going to be coming from, a boxer will be very familiar with those, and he'll know exactly how to defend them, especially Floyd. I mean, that's how Floyd has gotten to this point, is he's a master, a defensive boxer. But Conor's not going to be throwing typical boxing punches. I mean, he's not going to be throwing typical crosses and uppercuts and stuff that Floyd is used to, because that's not what Conor does. And I think he's going to be coming at Floyd from a lot of different angles that Floyd's never seen, and he's also going to be fighting from a different range than Floyd is used to. I mean, for the most part, boxers stand goddamn right in front of each other, especially if you get two boxers, or like a guy like Adrian Broner, a guy like Floyd Mayweather, who are very defensive minded. They stand right in front of the other guy, and they use their how they're leaning, they use their shoulders, they use their hands to protect themselves. And Conor is going to be fighting from way farther away than Floyd's used to. And I think that even though Conor can't throw kicks, I think he should be mostly attacking from almost kicking range and doing, obviously he's got to be careful, because even Floyd hasn't knocked anybody out in a really long time, but obviously Floyd could knock him out if Conor got crazy or Conor leapt right into something. But I do think that he should be trying to use his speed and unorthodox movement to try to create opportunities for himself to actually square Floyd up. I think if he does square Floyd up, Floyd's going to be in a fucking world of trouble. Conor hits hard in MMA, and now he's going to be hitting somebody with a 10-ounce glove. I mean, that's the other thing that people don't think about is, that 10-ounce glove definitely helps with defense and stuff like that. You can definitely protect yourself a lot better. But if you do get squared up, that's just way more force, way more surface area for the blow to hit your face. It's just it's totally different than getting hit with an MMA glove. That has its own pros and cons for the person getting hit and for the person doing the hitting. So I think that's another aspect to it, that Conor has one punch power in MMA with a 4-ounce glove, and so it's only going to be worse with a 10-ounce glove. And so I mean those are my main thoughts, that I felt like Conor really does have a chance. I feel like Conor actually does have, in a lot of ways, I feel like Conor does have a better chance of beating Floyd than a boxer does. I mean, Floyd granted, he fought Pacquiao after Pacquiao was, past Pacquiao's prime, and Canelo was probably before his prime when he fought him. And De La Hoya is arguably, after his prime as well. And so, you can say that Floyd, who he hasn't fought any unbelievable fighters, but it's not really true. He's fought 2 Hall of Famers. He's fought a bunch of 12-time champion in 5 different weight classes. Floyd's boxing resume is everything that it sounds like. And so I think that, Conor has a better chance in a lot of ways because it'll be so unorthodox and so different from anything Floyd has ever come up against before. And the mental aspect of it. I don't want to, overplay that part, but Conor really could beat the shit out of Floyd. And Floyd has to know that in the back of his mind. And so these press conferences are probably like nothing that Floyd has ever been through. And you can tell, I mean, you could tell Conor was kind of getting to him, especially this last one I just watched, the London one. Floyd, just by the end, the shit he was saying was just like so stupid and poorly thought out. And, you know, I feel like Conor probably got into his head a little bit with all these press conferences because it was just so clear every time that Conor came out the bigger star in each one of them. And I feel like Conor represents the biggest challenge to Floyd of anybody in the world. And so I think it is probably the best fight for boxing in a lot of different ways. I mean, obviously, not only is it going to be the biggest combat fight, you know, the biggest combat sport event of all time, it's going to be, you know, literally the biggest boxing match of all time. I don't know. I feel like Floyd may end up regretting taking this fight. I mean, obviously, if he loses, if Conor wins, not only does Conor become the biggest combat sport, so, you know, like the biggest combat sport celebrity of all time, but Floyd's legacy and everything is just, nobody will ever bring up Floyd Mayweather's name again without bringing up Conor McGregor. And that's really what losing would mean to Floyd Mayweather, in my mind, at least, that, you know, it won't be about Floyd anymore. It'll be about when Floyd let an MMA fighter come in and knock him out, or beat him, you know, however. I mean, obviously, I think that if Conor's going to win this fight, he has to knock him out, because I don't think he's going to be able to beat him by points. I mean, that's not going to happen. But Conor can knock him out. I mean, if you look at them standing side by side, Conor's head is like twice the size of Floyd's, and he's got big, huge fists. Conor is built kind of strange. Like he's short, but he's built like a very big guy. Like his head is big, his shoulders are wide. He's got big, huge hands, but he's only like 5'9". It's kind of weird. He's built kind of strange. But next to Floyd, I mean, he just looks giant, and I tend to believe him when he says if he lands square on any part of Floyd's head, you know, on the side of his head, on the chin, obviously on the chin, but on the side of his head, on the forehead, if he lands anywhere real square, Floyd's going to have a really hard time taking Conor's shots. And so I'm sure he's planning on just not taking any of them. And it's definitely possible, if not likely. I mean, I can make an argument either way, but it's definitely considered, the popular conception is that it's likely that Floyd is going to win. And now if you talk to a boxing person, they'll tell you that he's going to win by knockout. And if you talk to anybody else, or if you talk to an MMA person, they'll say that, Conor could probably make it to a decision, but he's going to lose, a decision. And so, man, I don't know what else I can say about it, or what else I want to say, but it's one of those things that you just have to watch. Like, I don't know, I know most people know about this fight, even people that don't pay attention to boxing, or don't pay attention to MMA, don't pay attention to combat sports in general. Most people know about this fight, because most people know who Floyd Mayweather is. And then, so you find out that, Floyd Mayweather is going to fight, and then a lot of people know who Conor is. Conor has risen to a very high stature in terms of public awareness. But this fight has just blown him up into the stratosphere, and he's going to come out of it an even bigger star. But anyway, I just can't wait for the fight, and I'm just so interested to see what's going to happen. I really hope that...
What?
You going to be in this?
No.
Don't go away.
No,
Stop making noise on my video if you're not going to be a part of it.
My guns.
Anyway, that's really all I had to say. Peace out, guys.